Diorama Vietnam 1969. Hang on, bro. A reconnaissance platoon in a rural village in Vietnam is ambushed. There are a number of wounded, and reinforcements have just arrived. The reinforcements on the Sheridan tank are still in full gear. Tank crews keep in touch with headquarters. You are not loosening your perimeter boundaries. The scout platoon members who are ambushed are just bringing back wounded soldiers. Carrying the wounded soldiers' uniforms and rifles with difficulty are following together. This soldier can't walk properly. It looks like you seriously injured your leg. Soldiers on top of tanks staring down at them because they don't know if they will be in the same situation someday. There's a soldier with more serious injuries. Wounded soldiers will be transported by armored vehicles. A black soldier is talking quietly to his colleague on the shoulder. Hang on, bro. A family still lives in this house. The children are hiding in the house and spying on the soldiers outside the window. That old man must have been seriously injured. Everything is scary for children. Where is the children's mother? The support platoon leader is asking her about the geography of the area. After listening to a brief, I recommend you to evacuate with your family in case of danger. But she has no intention of leaving the house. This is her old home. She lived a long time. It's her land. Hang on, bro. By KSG. A total of 18 dolls were included in this Vietnam War diorama. I took some of the dragon products I had. This is a slightly modified product for the scene of helping wounded soldiers. It was the most useful MB Company product in this diorama production. There is also an existing resin soldier that has been remodeled by changing the head and posture. A resin soldier set loaded on a Sheridan tank. I also used a few separately sold heads. I used acrylic paint to paint the doll. The US military uniform was used by adding a little bit of black to the combination of olive green uniform green Usfield drab. It goes through several washes after basic painting, contrast expression and weathering with dry brushing. 17 US soldiers and Vietnamese civilian women completed of the two vehicles to enter the diorama. Prepare the M113 armored vehicle first. I'm going to open the back door. So I focused more on the interior reproduction. It went through several washes with raw umber and burnt sienna oil paints on the base color of lacquer. Fill the inside of the armored vehicle with various equipment. I was referring to photos from the Vietnam War. I placed the equipment with reference to the actual interior photos. That phrase was also taken from a real photo. Various oil paint washing steps were performed on the basic national defense color, lacquer base. I chipped the edges and finished weathering with MiG's Vietnam, earth and airfield dust to pigments. The second vehicle to appear in the diorama is the M551 Sheridan tank. I painted another phrase taken from an actual record photo with a fine brush, olive drab lacquer paint, oil wash in several stages, and weathering with Vietnam earth pigment. The upper grille of the body was expressed with pencil powder. Sandbags and various supplies were prepared separately and placed on the vehicle body. Both vehicles are ready for the diorama. Now let's make the base. First, make a square frame with the Formex board. I fill in the approximate topography with ISO pink. I used Sabato for ground production. Mix the base and hardener and knead. When mixed properly, it turns a light purple color. It takes about 10 minutes to gradually harden, so you have time to do many things beforehand. Make space for large trees in advance. It hardened a little faster than expected, so I hurried the work. Holes are also pre-cut for planting medium-sized shrubs. Plant relatively large palm trees together before the ground hardens. A hole to be placed on the edge of the base for a pile of medium-height plants. I'm making a track mark according to the movement path of the Sheridan tank. These exposed backsides of the slopes. Cut the Formex board to size and attach it. I decided to use this potting soil to express the ground texture. Dilute woodworking glue in water and apply it to the ground beforehand. The parts where the vehicle's track will pass were left empty. Sprinkle with potting soil powder. The soil color is close to black, but it doesn't matter as it will be colored later. I used mixed Vietnam ground to express the ground texture. I mixed yellow acrylic paint to lower the redness. Dip the surface expression agent with a brush and apply it. The mix of potting soil, grains, and the texture of the ground expression agent gave the desired ground feel. After drying, I added partial painting with dark brown acrylic paint. Apply Vietnam earth pigment moderately for the unique color of Vietnam ground. Base ground is almost complete. Paint pebbles and rocks on the ground with light gray paint. If you wash separately with oil paint, etc., a natural feeling will be added. The yellow ochre ground in Vietnam has been completed for the first time. Now let's make various tropical plants. You can try using artificial plants for your aquarium. Bundle them separately into appropriate sizes. Wrap the bottom with floral wire. Most of the artificial plants are painted with eye-catching fluorescent colors, repainted with dark green lacquer paint. From the fluorescent color feeling that pops in your eyes. If you wash it with brown oil paint after coloring it in dark green, it will become a much more natural souffle color. Artificial plants of various shapes for various forest patterns. They are painted in different colors and washed. Now, make a forest in earnest on the ground base. Insert piles of artificial plants into the holes drilled in advance when making the base. Arranging aquatic plants of slightly different shapes will make the landscape look more natural. Fill the gap with the ground with cibattle and color it. Coat the forest floor with another layer of potting soil powder. Mix wood glue with water and apply to the surfaces to be sprayed. You can sprinkle cultured soil powder on the parts that have been painted with woodworking bond fluid. Be sure to sprinkle evenly between the souffles. For various patterns of tropical forest expressions, I made various tropical plants in advance by referring to the photos. Cut the leaves out of green paper. I used floral wire to shape the leaves and stems. I gathered the leaves together and tied them together at the bottom with floral tape. If you paint the edge of the leaf with dry brush strokes and pigment, it will look more natural. Plant additional pre-made tropical plants for a colorful forest pattern. Make a hole with a pin vise where you will plant the plant. It can be fixed to the ground with instant adhesive. Flower wire leaf stems can be bent and unfolded in any way. You can also make tropical plants that look like this. Add small artificial plants prepared separately. You can create more diverse forest landscapes. Let's add some low shrubbery plants to cover the ground. We have prepared a variety of plants to fill in the gaps in the bush. For a darker color, wash it with a dark brown color. Position it and attach it to the ground with instant adhesive. Forest edges feel more dense. I used both light green and dark green grass powder in parallel. Dissolve woodworking glue in water, spread it on the ground, and sprinkle grass powder to attach easily. Weeds are also attached in appropriate places to make the ground look more colorful. Also, apply the woodworking bond solution with a brush, and attach an appropriate amount with tweezers. Finely dust the edges to make the attachment surface as natural as possible. Keep placing weeds in various patterns. I used bush expression materials for certain parts. I cut and used this pile of brush in the front yard of the thatched house. I tried to make it look like an armored personnel carrier, pushed all the way through this bush. I also planted a self-made tropical tree in that location. The edge of the bush is floating, so the borders need to be processed naturally. Apply woodworking bond diluent with a brush. After spreading the grass powder evenly, attach 6 mm high grasses to the borders. You can connect with the ground naturally. Add other tropical plants. We continue to add shrubbery plants to make the landscape more colorful. Make leaves with colored paper and floral wire. Wrap the flower wire around wooden chopsticks to make a stem. These are tropical plants made by connecting the leaves and trunks together. Insert a toothpick into the hole made with the pin vise, and cut the remaining end. It is very easy to fix it with instant adhesive to the pre-made hole in the ground. I also used shrubbery materials for the diorama. Cut out as much as needed, and paint the bottom to match the ground color. Attach it to the place where it will be used with instant adhesive. If you also treat the raised edges due to the unevenness of the ground, with a heap of weeds and grass powder, a natural scene can be created. Now, I'm trying to make a Southeast Asian-style thatched house for this Vietnamese diorama. I made the basic base out of artwood boards. Cover the outside of the house with thin wooden panels. First, base paint. The roof was raised with sari broom bristles. The feel of the broom bristles is very stiff, so I need to add additional reinforcement afterwards. This is a basic paint job. I plan to finish with a slightly darker color later. Make the roof a bit thicker. It gives the thatched roof treatment for a more sagging feeling. Lightly airbrush the thatched roof with a light beige color. I'm going to try to express the dirt with Russian earth pigment. It feels like the bright and variable colors have sunk heavily. The gaps after the thatched roof were glued to the ground. By mixing the colors with acrylic paint suitable for Vietnamese surface expression agents. Apply with a brush to fill the gap with the ground, and dry. Let's prepare a pile of lumber to stack under the thatched house. Cut a tree branch of the appropriate size, and apply glue. Please refer to the actual photos and build up step by step. The expression of weeds and grass on the ground also goes in parallel. I also expressed tree roots that could be used as firewood, as if thrown under a thatched house. I expressed the trees for firewood. Bucket and basin props use mini arts products. I'm going to fill in the details of the landscape of the thatched house. I also prepared sacks for miscellaneous items. I washed it with enamel and oil paint on a basic lacquer base. Now let's fill all the places of the thatched house. Attach them one by one with instant adhesive. It is decorated with a little more realistic feeling. Even the scenery of tropical forests and thatched houses has been completed. Check the overall feeling again. Now let's place the vehicles and dolls. Attach the tank to the ground in accordance with the track marks that you made in advance. Instant adhesive and woodworking bond were pre-applied to the attachment surface. The soldiers boarding the top are raised one by one. The following places the M113 armored personnel carrier. Fix all puppets to the ground in the intended position. It gives a more natural finish to the dirt expressions of military uniforms and boots. I used Vietnam earth pigment, which is close to the ground color. Now, lastly, paint the sides of the diorama base. Finish by brushing with enamel matte black paint. This is the final look after about 7 months of production. I'll finish the production with photos of the finished product. Thanks for watching.